So, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation With. If you're joining us on Friday night over on the Azurish Live Twitch.tv channel, then thanks so much for tuning in. Really means a lot. Do take part in the chat below, and don't forget to give the channel a follow because you'll get notified next time we go live. Equally, if you're on catch up, you're watching this on the YouTube channel, thanks so much for tuning in again. Please do like and subscribe if you like the content. It really does mean a lot to me. So, okay, my next guest, he is a senior consultant working at Netcompany at the moment. He's a speaker, he's a blogger, he's a vlogger, and he's a huge part of the Azure community, not just in the UK here, but worldwide. So on that note, my next guest on In Conversation With is Shabaz Darr. Hey Shabaz, how you doing?
Hi, John. Yeah, great. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, battling on, buddy. Yeah, nice to finally get you on one of these In Conversation With videos, eh?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've been quite excited since you obviously reached out to me, but no, I'm looking forward to speaking to you.
No, it's going to be a pleasure, I'm sure. Obviously, you know, we met a little while back on, you know, in Twitter world and whatnot with various bits and pieces we were doing. But I mean, before we delve into what we're going to talk about today, I don't know if you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction, let people know what you're up to and who you are, if they don't know.
Sure, thank you. So as John mentioned, my name is Shabaz Darr. I'm a senior infrastructure consultant at Netcompany. So I'm based in the north of the UK, so let's say Leeds, Bradford area. So my sort of main focuses historically have been around over the last 7-8 years cloud, so Microsoft stack mainly, so Azure, Microsoft 365, EUC, and in more recent times Windows Virtual Desktop. So I think Gregor Suttie once referred to me as a WVD fanboy. So yeah, I'm into that sort of tech, and really enjoying being part of the wider tech community.
No, absolutely. And I think that's how we first met in the virtual sense, of course. During COVID, I think we were all out there doing a little bit with the community, dropping the odd blog, doing a little bit of bits and pieces with YouTube. And obviously, I think that was when we first started having a chat was around WVD. So, I mean, let's kick things off then, Shabaz. I mean, we met via community with this fantastic cloud Azure community that we're kind of both a part of at the moment. I mean, what does community mean to you, Shabaz? And you know, what do you get out of it and what do you do for it, I guess? Let's start at that point.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So I suppose I started kind of just doing blogs. And the reason I was doing blogs was to I had a lot of thoughts in my head. I had a lot of things I'd experienced. I just wanted to share them. I wasn't really aware of the wider community at that point. So that was like back in probably 2017, 16 that I just started blogging. And it was like once in a blue moon, I'd done a project where I was working and I wanted to describe my experiences with it. And then in more recent times, probably about a couple of months before COVID, I just started obviously getting more involved on Twitter and introducing myself. And what happened was I went to Microsoft Ignite in Florida the last time it was in person. And that's where I kind of met like Gregor Sutton and Richard Hooper and people like that.
Yeah.
And then obviously I started following them on Twitter and looking at what they were doing. And they did the Azure Advent calendar at the time.
Yeah, sure thing.
And that was my first real delve into what I know now as community. And it was like a video. It was an awful video. It took me all day to record. It wasn't a pleasant experience. But I output something, and it was quite satisfying to do it. I kind of went quiet then, and I was just kind of in the background watching what others do and how they do it. So YouTube, people like yourself and others doing their user groups. I was attending the user groups, and I started getting a taste for it a little bit. And I thought, I want to try to do this. Then COVID obviously hit, and I'd started to present a little bit before then at a couple of user groups, like the Leeds Azure one. When you say what does community mean to me, it's like I see it as friendship. If I'm honest with you, I like yourself, people like Simon Lee and Imran Rashid and people like that. I've got so many friends from the community, and it's essentially people with the same interest as me, be it cloud. And it's not like a job, It's not. I do, even though I do it in my job, it's different. I don't feel like it's coming home and doing the same stuff. I don't know why it is. Even though it's the same technologies, I feel like it's different. It's almost like I'm expressing myself. So the stuff that I do for community is me expressing myself essentially. It's like I see it like an art form. Doing the blogs and the videos. They're my experiences, and like I said, I feel like it's friendship. It's given me a lot of friends, and it's just enhanced my knowledge and understanding. Watching the stuff that you do, the Azure Live-ish, that the whole channel that you guys do. People like Sarah Lee, Techie Last, watching what the cloud advocates do, and it's enhanced my my sort of network as well. And I'll be honest, it's got me through COVID. It's got me through this whole pandemic. And if it wasn't for the community and me having that output of without expressing myself, I think I could have had a rockier time in if I'm honest with you, from a mental perspective during COVID. So that's what it's been like for me.
Oh, 100%, Shabaz. Yeah, I think you touched on so many different areas then. I think one of the things, like I get asked the same question, what is community? And I guess like you, we're both from very similar backgrounds with our work, our career and what we've done in IT. And for years, I've always thought, I didn't get it. What is this thing, community? What does it mean? I just didn't get it. And I think it's a funny thing. I don't know about you, Shabaz, but trying to explain it to somebody until you actually start doing some of it, it's only then when you realize actually what community, and it's all those things and more that I think that you just mentioned there, isn't it? I think, just that camaraderie. Sometimes it's serious. Sometimes you're doing, actually, you're writing a blog on something very specific you've done or you've achieved. Other times it can be a bit tongue in cheek, a little bit of fun and just a little bit of an outlet. But yeah, completely echo those thoughts. I think certainly in COVID, it's been, a difficult situation for us all, no doubt. So yeah, I think I'm completely with you with that outlet and things like that. So I mean, you mentioned obviously user groups, and that is, I guess, that's one element of community. And I know you and the guys, you've gone off and you've got the Bradford Cloud user group set up now, which I'm an avid fan. I do my best to try and join as many sessions, and I think it's just brilliant to see so many great sessions going on at the minute. I'm genuinely in that point now where I miss the majority of stuff that's going on, and I'm like that. How can I watch it all? I need another 10 me's to watch it all. How's that going, Shabaz? How did that come about? How's it going? What are you and the guys up to?
So it's going great. It all started again. I met Imran through community. Just started following him, reading his blogs. He does the Azure crazy stuff as well. So I had he interviewed me. So I was one of the first people interviewed. And then obviously he works with Mohammed Saj, so he's known him for a while. And they basically just reached out to me and said, look, we're both local to Bradford. We want to start this user group. What do you think? And I was like, all over that. Because I was having similar thoughts myself. I wanted to do something user group based. And again, we've done it local to again, you've got the Welsh one because that's local to you. That's close to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you want to give back to that community. We're similar. We've all got something very close to our. We all went to Bradford University. myself and Sad, born and bred Bradford lads, we wanted to give something back to that community. Obviously, being virtual at the moment is a bit more difficult. We're hoping to have some in-person stuff towards the end of the year, but that was essentially what we wanted to do in some sort of form. So we started the user group, and again, with the name of it, we wanted to stay agnostic, because you have certain user groups which is fine. You want to specify around Azure or cloud management or whatever. We wanted to be agnostic because, again, we felt like, especially for Bradford, it's such a multicultural city. We wanted to try and keep agnostic and do all across cloud, so that's why we just call it the Bradford Cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, understood.
And again, it meant that we just, we kind of left it open. We won't get the same people. We're very rare. We get the same people joining every month because the topics are so different. We had teams last month, and we had loads of teams people joining. This week's this month's AWS, got loads of AWS people joining. So again, that was one thing, and one of our main sort of areas we want to try and focus on as well is young people. Trying to get young people into IT and into cloud, as well as local businesses in Bradford. So we've started targeting, contacting university. So we've contacted Bradford University. We're in conversation with them at the moment about doing some collaboration with them, and they're really kind of excited about it. And we're also targeting local companies in Bradford. That'll be easier when we're in person, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah,
a bit difficult when we're virtual. But yeah, I mean, it's going well. The main thing is we're enjoying it. We have such a laugh together. Like I said, I'm doing it with two friends. It's not.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's that social aspect to it, isn't it? It's about, yes, you're setting up a monthly session where you're getting some great speakers on, but absolutely there is that social community piece to it as well, where like you say, whether you get the same people joining or not, I mean, that's not necessarily the aim. I like the bit that you say that you're trying to keep that cloud agnostic, because maybe we'll branch into a little bit of a techie conversation in a minute about that. But cloud is such a massive thing, and I think, yes, COVID has probably spawned more people like us now to come and start doing these YouTube videos or putting on user groups. Everything is virtual. I mean, we hear it a lot more lately, where we are getting this kind of virtual burnout, where I alluded to it earlier. There's so much going on, and it's great. Most of the content is fantastic, but there's only so many hours a day that you can sit staring at a screen, I guess, or staring at your mobile device. And look, it's a problem, I suppose, that we never thought that we would have. And it's just it's an interesting position that we're in. And I guess for me, it's about trying to think, how can we do things a little bit differently? What can we do differently? Not just to give back, like you say, to community, but, in order to, do something enjoyable and constructive and fun at the same time, So, yeah, I echo some of those challenges.
But it's interesting you should say that, because I think the Welsh Azure user group was the first user group I saw do a quiz, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'd not been to at least I can't remember. Maybe it's the first one I went to where they did a quiz. And it was I can't remember which one it was now. It was the one where there was it Admiral? Admiral did a demo around.
Oh, the WVD. Yep, I remember. That was
being the fanboy that I am. That's why I joined to see that. But you did a quiz, and I've seen so many more user groups bring that in now, and it's a fun aspect of that's the networking piece for me. Do the sessions is a techie piece, and it's right. Let's have a bit of fun. And that's kind of replaced the pizza and beer kind of element to it, because we can't do that anymore.
Well, I'll be glad to get back to that, though. I think I remember going to the in-person, user groups, and it's strange, isn't it, that you've, as much as we are that locale, like you're the Bradford Cloud User Group, I'm part of the Welsh Azure. I'm finding it, like you say, that's a great idea about reaching out to local communities like universities and bringing young people into them. I'm finding it a struggle with the Welsh Azure User Group to find those techies from local Welsh business, or even non-techies, to join, so that when we do go back to in-person events, you've got an audience, But certainly the virtual aspect has got to stay, hasn't it? In some respects. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I believe so. I think I've asked a few times on Twitter. I've asked that question: How do user group organisers feel about hybrid events? And it's been a mixed output, if I'm honest, mixed feedback. And I understand what people are saying. It's going to be a lot of work to do hybrid events. Where you try and record it. You need to make sure you have a steady internet connection, etc. Make sure you have the right technologies and equipment. I think me, Imran, and Saj both agree we are going to try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we're going to try it. just because I think I think that's the future of user groups. If I'm honest with you, I'd love to think that I can go to the Northeast as a user group, the Welsh user group, the Glasgow one, but it's from a geographical perspective, it's going to be difficult. So to have that element where
certainly in-person events, I mean, that's the reality and laws of physics, I guess, isn't it, that are going to prevent us from going to those things?
Exactly. I will have a bucket list where, you know what, this year I do want to attend these sort of in-person events when we start going in person. So I'm going to have a bucket list which I'm going to tick off. Obviously,
that's a great idea. Actually, that is a really good idea, isn't it? I think we should all have it, and we'll all turn up at the do a tour of the UK.
I think that could happen. And even I spoke to Dean. I think that you work with Dean, really nice guy. When he reached out to me around, because obviously we did the Brad Cook one, and he was looking to do that cloud manager one. I said to him, why don't you do like a roadshow when we're in person? Just keep call yourself the cloud manager one. Stay like that. Don't give yourself don't pigeonhole yourself to a location, and go on the road when we're in person. Do an event in London, do an event in Leeds or Manchester. You should do like a road show, and I'd love to do that with the Bradford, even though we are the Bradford Cloud users. I'd love to do that maybe at one point as well, when we do a bit of a road show.
Well, if you're ever down this way, obviously, you've got my full support. But equally, I'll be hopefully, I'll be up your neck of the woods at some point when we're all out and about again. And it'd be cool. I mean, I guess that's the part of it, though, isn't it? It's just that support around. You've done some fantastic stuff. Certainly since I've been involved in the community, I've seen some brilliant blog posts from yourself. Obviously, the stuff you're doing with the user group at the minute. I think lots of people underestimate the work that goes into that, I think is probably fair to say. So, it's the tip of the hat just purely for what you're getting done. And equally, you're doing lots of great things with YouTube and putting together some how-to videos, and you're doing some series on YouTube. I mean, how's all that going for you at the minute, Shabaz?
Well, thank you, first of all, I really do appreciate your kind words and your support. Again, I'm doing it's an outlet for me, if I'm honest with you. I'm expressing, it's just a way of me, it's like, it sounds a bit corny. I see it as an art form. Blog writing and the videos, and it's what they're aimed at. They're not aimed, if I'm honest with you, they're not aimed at people who have years and years of experience, because they're very level. I think what you'd call level 100. They're not like really technical, very very in deep technical. And the reason, again, I had so much help. I'm not going to pretend that I've done everything on my own. No one ever helped me. When I was coming through in IT in general, I had a lot of help, and obviously it was more in person then, because colleagues or people within certain businesses that where I was working that helped me, and obviously during COVID we're not able to have that in person sort of effect. So what I was trying to do is I want to do content where I can help people who are at the start of their career, so introduce them to technologies. That's why a lot of my content isn't really highly technical. I do MFA, Azure AD, some Veeam stuff I've done recently, and the stuff I'm doing now about migrating workloads to the cloud. For people who have been in IT 15 plus years, they'll be like, well, I know how to do that, which is fine, that's great. And maybe sometime someone might help them out of the video, but my real aim is for people who have really got into IT the last 5 years, haven't had that experience of, what tools can I use to migrate from A to B, or what tools can I use to back up cloud technologies. It's aimed at them, if I'm honest with you, because when I was thinking about doing sort of content, there's so much content out there that like documents, Microsoft Docs, and that tell you how to do stuff. Yeah. There's nothing out there that tells you how Shabaz Darr has done something and how my experience was. And that's what my content is. It's like my diary. Do you know what I mean? Dear diary, this is what I did. This is how I did it, and this is why I did it that way. That's what my content.
And that makes such sense to me. As somebody who's worked in IT for a little bit of time now, but. We look at the situation that we're in. I look around now, Twitter, LinkedIn. So many people are hiring at the minute. There is so many movers and shakers. The recruitment companies go around poaching all the relevant people, are shifting, doing the whole game of chess. There's so much going on, and you think, well, wow, this whole tech intensity thing that I think Satya Nadella mentioned, a few years back, that we're going into this period of tech intensity. He wasn't lying, I don't think. I think purely from even people that have been in the industry for such a long time, there is always something to learn is my personal observation. I think that's a brilliant way of looking at it, because like you say, they're either graduates just coming out of university or young people coming into the industry for the first time. Yes, like you say, they could absolutely go to Microsoft Docs, Microsoft Learn, absolutely fantastic content. But then equally, sometimes it'd be nice, like you put that mentor badge on it. And if Shabaz Darr is doing these video series and it's something that a particular person that's new into the industry has got an interest in, well, okay, they may watch your YouTube video, but now they know who you are. And I'm guessing you're completely open to anybody contacting you on Twitter saying, Shabaz, really enjoyed that video, got a quick question. And, that's, for me, that's what I see happening now is that kind of helping others know who you are so that you can help them further if needs be and be part of that community.
Exactly. That's what it's about for me. And if my content does help someone who has a bit more season, then fine, that's a bonus. But my intention is to try and help and try and, like I said, people who have just come into the industry and are wanting to learn from experience and others' experience.
No, it's a fantastic way of doing it. And I think you probably undersell yourself there with, I'm pretty sure it does help seasoned veterans as well, Shabaz. I think there's, it's certainly, we'll get on to this point now, but I don't know how you find it, but I mentioned tech intensity now, and I know I've done a lot of these videos with other people from the community where we've talked about that skills development. And, absolutely the angle that obviously you demonstrated there, where you've got new people coming into the industry that kind of need, it'd be great if they could hook into somebody or something and just have that little helping hand, that leg up. How do you find that as arguably a time-served IT person? How do you find this whole learning journey with the stuff that you're being asked to do today by the company you work for or the customers you work with, compared to, maybe what's coming and what you might need to know going forward? What's that like for you at the moment, Shabaz, and how do you kind of handle that?
So I'm a town like yourself. I'm a techie at heart, and there's always new technologies and news. I've not even thought about any of the IoT stuff, if I'm honest with you. You do some great content, and Pete Gallagher does some great stuff as well. And that's such an interesting and techie and geeky topic. I'm like, oh man, I'd love to. I do try and do things that are relevant, like skills that are going to be relevant for my job. Just because I feel like I kill two birds with one stone. It'll be something that can help me do my day-to-day job, and it's something I can make content around as well. And I'm very much a fan of building something, breaking it. So when I do my labs in my own time, etc., I purposefully try and break stuff, because then if I know how it works, if I know how to fix it and the problems that can occur, and in my opinion, that's how you learn how it works. That's how a service works. Breaking a network, breaking a VM, breaking WVD. That's how I learned, by doing stuff wrong on purpose. So right, I'm not going to do that. What happens if I don't do that? Okay, I see. That's what effect it has on those other services that are away from WVD. That's how I kind of worked out how things kind of fit together. So that's what I always say to people. I kind of say, I learn by breaking. Obviously in labs, not in production.
You try not to on a customer's working environment, of course. It's no, I'm completely with you, and it's I think it's that whole fail fast mentality that we hear a lot spoken about lately. Is that nobody should be afraid of failure, and equally, it's great to see that. One of my big reservations about coming into the community is, I don't know about you, but one thing I always I've observed over the years is that a lot of techie people were a very cynical bunch at the best of times. So, to say it mildly, certainly colleagues and, people I work with over the years, I think it's probably something to do with our personality. Maybe it's a massively generalist statement, I know, but I found that people are very, very cynical. So one of the big hang-ups I had early doors about community and trying to put content like you're doing is that whole, am I going to be judged? Am I going to say things that are not quite right, but it's how I did it? Did you have any of those kind of apprehensions about coming into the community, Shabaz?
At first, 100%. I think that's natural. I think that'll be natural of any any community you were to go into, if you to start playing a sport or anything like that, when you first go into a team, because that's what the community is. It's a team. End of the day, for me, it doesn't matter if you're a cloud advocate or an MVP or an AWS cloud builder. It doesn't matter for me. We're all part of the same team, and we're all part of that community. I think it's reservations about, will I be accepted? And I think that's natural. That's human nature. The way I kind of got over it was essentially, like I said, this is my experience. This is not right or wrong, and this is not me saying, "Oh, this is how you should be doing stuff." This is how I did it. This is how I did it. This is why I had to do it this way. The reasons why I did it that way might be because of something in the scope or something issue with a customer for a commercial reason or whatever. But I had to do it this way. This is how I did it. This is my experience. This is how it turned up. This is how it turned out. And I think it's our experiences that differentiate us. So we could be doing the same project. I guarantee we'll do it this different way.
Oh, 100%. And that's such a, I think that's an important point to realize. I mean, if people are watching this video now about, community and how you step into it or why you'd want to step into it, certainly from what I found is exactly what you've just described there. Is you have some apprehension to begin with. If you just get on and do whatever it is that you feel you need to do. I mean, if one person watches it or 100 people watch it or consume whatever the content is, that's not the point. It's about your own experience. It's about your own take on what you've done. And look, let's face it, we can all read a Microsoft Docs article, and they've absolutely got fantastic over the years. I remember there was a time where the Microsoft way wasn't necessarily the best way. It was the whole end-to-end demo that runs smoothly, and then you take that into the real world and you have all of these problems that you have to overcome. So for me, it's seeing somebody that works with either one customer or multiple customers, that you're hitting those pain points, or you're able to kind of describe some of these gotchas that maybe they are written in the Microsoft Docs, but unless you've really read through them with a fine-tooth comb, you might have missed something. And I think for me, seeing your series and things like that, it's about being able to pick out those little salient points as you go. Do you find that as well, Shabaz?
Yeah, and it is. I think feedback's important with sort of content as well. And I what's the phrase I'm looking for? I ask for it. I say, I encourage it. And negative or not negative feedback, as long as it's not helpful. Again, I can't articulate today. As long as it's not like really negative and personal, which I've never had before, if I'm honest with you. No. Very, very thankful, very grateful for that. But it's as long as it might come across as negative, but you've got to be able to take some criticism. No one's perfect. If someone says, "Well, why did you do it that way? This is the right way, or this is the way I did it, and this is the way you should have done it." Then if I look at it, well, you're right. I didn't think about it at the time, but thanks for that tip. Sometimes people are very, very precious about that's what I've seen. People are very precious about. I read a comment someone's made, and even though it does come across a bit a bit negative, I feel sometimes people are very precious over their content. I'm not very precious over my content, as in someone makes. I know what you mean. Do you know what I mean? If someone wants to call me out on something, fair enough. If I've made an incorrect technical reference somewhere, fair enough. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. Someone can call me out on it. I'll happily take it on the chin. But I think my own opinion is, again, I've got to be that way. Otherwise, I'm going to stop enjoying it, and we're too focused on what. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I love feedback, and I don't want to get to the point where I stop doing what I really love doing because I'm taking feedback the wrong way. That's kind of my take on that, I suppose.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think, again, it resonates with what you're saying there, my own experiences. And I think somebody told me a little while back, actually, is when you are getting feedback, one of the key things to try and do is assume positive intent from that feedback, from that person that's leaving the feedback. Yes, I guess you're going to get those people that are just out to try and shoot you down for whatever, issue they've got going on at the time. But I think that whole mindset of assume that positive intent. So in other words, that person has taken the time to watch your video or read some of your blogs. They've taken that time. If they've got something, and I've been picked up on it, like you say, sometimes you read text, you think, oh, are they having a go at me? No, assume positive intent. They're just trying to point out, oh, I've spotted you did this. And I think, just to echo what you said there, if you get too hung up on that, I think sometimes it can take the enjoyment out of it. Personally, I think if you just, I'm like you, Shabaz. I think for me, it's just, I've done that. Publish. Let's move on to the next thing that I'm playing with at the time. But I mean, it's a great way to be, and I guess like me, you get a lot out of it. I mean, do you want to explain a bit of how what do you get out of it from a personal point of view when you do a blog post or a piece of content? What does that mean for you? Putting that back to community, what do you get out of it, Shabaz?
Like I said, I feel like it's just expressing myself. We all, no matter what walk of life, in my opinion, whatever walk of life, you need a way to express yourself. Sportsmen do it by playing football or cricket or football or rugby or whatever. Artists do it by painting or drawing or whatever. Singers do it by singing or rapping or whatever. I do it by creating content, be it blogs, getting my thoughts on a piece of paper, I suppose, on an article, or being on my videos and going through doing demos. I love doing demos. I try and incorporate sometimes to my I try and do live demos with my sessions. But for the Welsh when I did a live demo, and I was like,
proper. Oh, it's great. Yeah, you got there, and it was like, poof, it's bang on.
It's just so much satisfaction when that stuff like that happens. And again, I don't monitor, how many people are watching or liking or that. I don't hang myself up on them because again, some advice I've had from people where if you get hung up on how many people are watching or how many people are liking, you're just gonna your mind's gonna go everywhere, and you won't do it because you'll stop enjoying it. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. As soon as I hit publish and that's out there and I've shared it, that for me is the satisfaction that I've done something. It's like like an end product of some work, like something that I've worked on. I've put a lot of time and effort in. It's the end. It's like seeing the end product. Oh man, I spent a couple of hours last night doing that video, publishing it and sort of editing it and stuff like that. I'm really satisfied that that's gone out there now, and that's it.
But I guess you're learning new skills as well. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, Shabaz, but these things don't just miraculously happen. Like you say, they take time and effort. And how is it for you, having to learn, I'm going to do a YouTube video, even speaking to camera, for me, that was a completely new thing. So, I mean, how did you find all that? And are you able to take those new skills into other elements of your day job, for example?
Yeah, like I said, the first time I ever did a video was the Azure Advent Calendar a couple of years back. And I'm not shy about saying this, the most painful experience of my life. It was just so difficult, and I kept on. Hopefully, when we meet in person, you'll see this. And I'm not proud of this, but I'm a potty mouth. My language is appalling sometimes. Imran and Saj will tell you that. Sometimes when we're recording stuff, and it's my bit to record, and I say so, and I'll say some horrendous things to myself, obviously. But
are you saying I've got to go back through all your YouTube videos now and find that one word that you didn't edit out? We've got to find them.
I mean, there's one way you will find it. And it was like it took me so many takes, and it wasn't a good experience, and it put me off videos for a bit. If I'm honest with you, I didn't know what to do any after that. But then doing the user groups, as I said, the Leeds Azure user group was the first one I ever did. And again, I was so nervous because, again, it was that mentality about, are the people watching going to accept me? Or is someone going to try and trip me up on the content that I'm delivering? Do you know what I mean? Again, and I was so nervous. And I'll be honest with you, it was after that event that I realised what this community is and how amazing it is, and the people in it. And it was Ryan Yates who does a Leeds one. He was so helpful, and he did some sessions with me beforehand, tutoring me and giving me tips. He looked at my PowerPoint deck before I did it and gave me some pointers. Gregor Sutty helped me so much with my presentation deck and stuff like that. And that's when I realised, wow, this community is not just about doing content; it's about reaching out to people and then helping you when you need it.
100%, yeah. I mean, it's the same names you mentioned there. I think we've all, over the last, certainly over, like for me, it's been over the last year or so now, but we've all reached out to the same people, and they are phenomenal people. I think they've been around the community scene for quite a while, and they're doing fantastic things themselves. And yeah, I echo that. It's just that they cannot do enough for you. There are so many people out there. Yeah, completely agree, Shabaz. I think those people that you just mentioned, then the likes of Gregor and Richards, and Ryan as well. They've been around the community for a number of years now. They're doing absolutely fantastic things themselves. But it's just that ability that they are not a closed book. You could approach these people, and there's so many more in the community that if you're stuck or you're after any advice, their door is open. And it's just absolutely brilliant to see. And for me, I'd like to think that my door is open for anybody that I can help in any situation. And I know you're the same, Shabaz. So it's a case of it truly is a good place to be, isn't it, in terms of professional development, I suppose, because, you've got this network of friends effectively, not just, in the same street as you, but globally now we're in this virtual situation.
We're on the same virtual street, though, to be honest. That's a really good position. But it's really good seeing people's journeys as well. I get Neil McLaughlin reaching out to me saying, "Oh, I'm so psyched to see your journey and where you've come from," and people like it's been really fun watching people like Isadora and Lisa Clark, and they both recently this year been awarded MVP, and it's just great seeing what they've done and their journey, and it's quite, again, that I take satisfaction out of seeing that as well. Like, you see someone who's working really hard and putting, really sharing, and then they get the recognition they deserve. So that's always fun to see as well. People think, oh wow, you know what, good for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's just it's great because obviously you've turned to community. You're doing fantastic things. Like I say, there's so many good people. We could probably make hours worth of content just naming the people that have done some brilliant stuff over the years, really. So, I mean, we talked quite a lot around community there, Shabaz. I mean, can we change track slightly now? Let's try and get a little bit techie. Just delve into the world of Shabaz's cloud world. Then, so obviously you're working as a senior architect, senior consultant or architect. Is it at the moment?
So senior infrastructure consultant. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I mean, do you work multi-cloud? Do you focus on just Azure? Are you doing things with AWS or G Cloud? Where do you sit at the moment, Shabaz, in that train of thought?
So my own my own focus is on Microsoft stack, if I'm honest with you, Azure, 365, EUC, and WVD. I am starting to go a bit more multi-cloud, go into a bit more AWS sort of infrastructure. I've done AWS before, so I did again, it's all around the VDI area. I did workspaces for a while and sort of learned that. But yeah, I suppose that my main focus is, and I think it's just because of the way I believe I'm seeing it work is like an SME in that area. So I love speaking to customers. I love doing demos. I love doing creating content at work, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do a lot of that, and luckily, Netcompany, it's been a different world since I've joined Netcompany. I was previously at an MSP, and the 7 years that I had there were absolutely amazing, and I learned so much technically, and they were called Concord Technology Group. Massive shout out to them. They were very helpful in my cloud journey. They gave me the time, the resources, and essentially they gave me that sort of push to learn cloud. So I'll always be grateful for that. And now I've come to Netcompany, it's just sort of gone to a totally different scale. And again, I'm being given that license and that time to develop services and demos and speak to customers. So I do really enjoy the pre-sales element, because again, for me it's like it's a bit like community, if I'm honest with you, just doing
I know what you mean.
And labbing and saying, right, okay, this is how we can do this. And so yeah, that's kind of what I focus on. I'm starting to do a bit more project work, and I do a lot of bid work as well. So bidding for different tenders, because again, answering questions, and it's another way of I suppose getting your thoughts on paper and answering a question. It's like a problem solving. I do enjoy that as well. So that's my role, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, where are you seeing things go? I mean, I don't know about you again, but for the last few years, conversations have been around this multi-cloud, and now it seems to have shifted focus a bit on hybrid cloud. I think we could all joke that for years, we've talked about cloud in so many different guises, it's just comical. But I mean, certainly that's, I think I'm a little bit like you, where I'm primarily focused on the Microsoft stack than anything else, but I've dabbled with the other clouds, but not in any great shakes. And I think for me personally, I've made a focused decision to stay focused, if you like, on the Microsoft stack, but completely aware that we've got this whole multi-cloud journey. I mean, obviously, I can answer from customers I speak with and observations I make. Where are you seeing the industry go at the minute in terms of, do you see customers have a true multi-cloud approach, or do you see customers honing in on one or another cloud? What's your gut feel at the moment, Shabaz?
I'll be honest with you, what I've kind of personally seen is it very depends on the organization size. If more the sort of more global sort of size companies, which are, the sort of bigger enterprise levels, they're very much multi-cloud, and that is, essentially using on-premises Microsoft and AWS. And the reason why I think they say agnostic is that they depends what service they want, depends what use case they have for that particular, issue or problem. I'll be honest, I'm not seeing a lot of Google Cloud at the moment, but I'm definitely seeing the larger enterprise level global organizations do multi-cloud. Not seeing much private cloud anymore. I think 5-6 years ago, private cloud, so people hosting their infrastructures with third-party vendors was very big. Again, because of how cost-effective, especially with high availability and scaling out and a lot of stuff and automation. I feel like, unfortunately, private cloud has withered away a bit.
Well, I suppose I speak by private cloud, you mean that traditional third-party data center kind of concept, because I know that the private cloud, the hybrid cloud, the public cloud, there's so many different people, in my experience anyway, people think different things. But of course, with Microsoft now, we've got things like, the Stack range of products. So we've got Azure Stack Hub and Edge, and obviously the hyperconverged, the HCI infrastructure, which is kind of bringing us back to that traditional private cloud story then, isn't it? So, I mean, what have you had any thoughts about that, and or have you dealt with any customers looking at those kind of approaches?
So again, only one or two, if I'm honest with you, thinking about especially we had a certain customer who did want to look at Azure Stack, because they wanted to host certain, and again, it's all dependent on use case. The customer had certain applications and hardware they need to integrate with on-premises servers and on-premises kit. So they wanted to use Azure Stack for that. However, they wanted to use, the Microsoft Cloud for their identity and for SaaS, but then they wanted to do AWS for PaaS. So they had these different use cases, and again, they stayed agnostic. And it's like anything, Microsoft do things better than AWS. AWS do things better than Microsoft. And I think, like I say, some bigger, more global, in my experience, the bigger global enterprise companies that are doing that, rather than, staying just Microsoft. And again, because they've got more people within their teams, they can afford to have an identity team, a virtual network team, an AWS team, a Microsoft team. They can afford to spread those skill sets. Whereas a smaller sort of maybe, mid to large organizations, because again, it's the reason, like you said, the reason I've said Microsoft Stack is just because I've learned it over the years, and there's so much to it. There's so much stuff that I just don't know yet, and I don't want to move away to something else, doing a half-assed job with Microsoft.
No, I mean, that's exactly the reason why I kind of stayed Microsoft focused, because I don't know about you, Shabaz, but over the years, obviously, with various Microsoft products and iterations, whether they be server applications or even desktops, I think it's fair to say Microsoft have borne the brunt of criticism over the years, with how they release applications and services. And I think for a number of years, certainly in my career, Microsoft was always seen to be that company that was frowned upon by the more niche areas, and certainly the open source movement over the years. Certainly if you're a Linux person, you'd be you can imagine the conversations. And I think for me, I've seen the step change over the last, I guess since Satya took over, with the embracing of open, the open source community, and the way that they now iterate and release products essentially. And sometimes, like you say, to pick you up on, I completely agree with you. I'm seeing the same thing with large enterprise being in that multi-cloud. And sometimes I sit back and I think, why have they gone multi-cloud? And don't get me wrong. There's obviously a plethora of reasons, whether it be certain technologies or features at the time of deploying was there in one cloud. But I don't know about you, Shabaz. I'm starting to feel now that Microsoft is doing their usual trick, where they will release a version 1.0 of a product, and people will go, "Yeah, okay, yeah," and then before you know it, they've iterated and iterated. By the time it gets to version 2 and 3 and 4, all of a sudden people are like, okay, what? Yeah, why do we need these other clouds? And I guess they're the kinds of conversations I'm having at the moment. I was just wondered if you obviously from a different perspective, was seeing the same things, or if you saw it differently to that.
So one thing I think the reason why that, like you mentioned, Microsoft used to get slated all the time because, and it's because there was no open dialogue, in my opinion. Yeah. Over the last 5 years, they've opened that dialogue. There are so many forums to feedback about, and they've started listening to. And you mentioned, they put out version 1.0 of a service, and it's absolutely pants. And what will happen is they'll take all that feedback from users, and then they'll use that to improve the product. So rather than them thinking this is what we think is a good service, they're listening to people who are feeding back, and they're thinking, right, this is what our users, this is what our clientele think is a good service. Right, now I got you. So it's because in my opinion, it's because of the open dialogue that they've started having with various ways of feeding back around different, like the beta exams you can do, certifications. Yeah. They're based around you feeding back to them, right? Well, that question technically is, shouldn't have that. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah. I know what you're saying.
That's why I feel they've kind of changed their stance, and it's all to do with feedback. But yeah, as far as why, and again, I think it's all to do with use cases. I think that people or companies, bigger organizations decide on, they're not a Microsoft house or an AWS house or a Google house or whatever. They look at the use case. They look at a lot of things like what's commercially viable, what technology perspective, what's going to fit us better. It's not a case of what's better than what is WVD better than workspaces or vice versa. It's about what will fit us as a business better, and I think that's what those decisions are based on.
And I think, I think one of the difficulties, I suppose the things that I try and sum up and justify when you're speaking to customers, obviously, we've already been through the fact that both you and I, we work in similar kind of environments with similar customers. We're on our own learning journey, and there's not one person that's going to know, as 50% of Azure end to end, let alone the entire breadth of the platform. And I sit there and think, well, okay, if we don't have those one or two people that know things inside out, for a business, business justification, how are we going to develop our business on this new cloud platform? You then got to bring in another person to talk about AWS potentially, if you're talking apples versus apples, and then G Cloud, and then another cloud. So I always get stuck in this quandary of the complexity of choosing your cloud vendors is almost as difficult as actually just getting on and doing whatever it is that you need to do. You know what I mean? How do you differentiate? It's almost like how do you compare apples with apples? I mean, it was just an interesting theme because when you spoke about the cloud, the Bradford Cloud User Group, you deliberately named it cloud, much for the same reason why my YouTube channel is called Cloud Talk, because in my head I've always felt, well, yeah, I'm very much a Microsoft focused person, but for some reason I need to be aware of AWS and G Cloud.
100%.
And I guess what I'm trying to answer in a bit of an open conversation is almost why, and I say that in a little bit of a, why, not in a big dramatic conversation, but genuinely why? Because it's so difficult to know one platform. How do you know three? To the level, and. And I was just intrigued to see what your views on that were, because I'm starting to see a shift away from, I guess, this traditional view of the world I think we had maybe a few years back, where multi-cloud was seen for various reasons. I think either G Cloud had better data analytics, don't quote me on these things, but G Cloud being Google had better search capabilities or whatever it may have been. Amazon had better price points for certain feature sets. I'm feeling that things are starting to flatten out a bit now. So obviously the competition with Azure, AWS, and G Cloud. How does one make a decision other than purely having a preference, almost. It's an interesting thing that I think we're going through at the moment.
It is, and you're right. I think so. What I'm trying to do with VDI, for example. So obviously, I feel like I know WVD pretty well. I've got a lot of experience with it. I've done a lot of deployments with it. My claim to fame is I did the 3rd deployment in the UK when it first came out. So I love that little tidbit. But I've actually started learning or going into workspaces again, Amazon workspaces.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because, and it's not about knowing the competition. I don't work for Microsoft. I have no affiliation with them from that perspective. But I think it's from a customer perspective, I need to know it. I need to know what use cases is workspaces going to be, going to have the edge over WVD. And it's that differentiator. It's that use case. Every customer's use case is different. So, and what I try to understand is, okay, this customer A wants just a simple VDI platform, no bells and whistles. They just want it cheap and cheerful. Okay, well, WVD might be better for that. Well, a customer B wants loads of analytics and loads of reporting and loads of So then customer B might have different requirements where they want more integration with other services, like they want more analytics, they want more reporting. So another vendor like AWS might be better for them. So that's why I think you do again, depending on your role within your company. So like I said, I've been told I'm an SME within that company on that sort of within that sort of area. So I think I need to be aware of the pros and cons of all the sort of VDI cloud services, regardless of vendor. So I think there is definitely a need, John. You're right to keep an eye on and be aware of all cloud services, no matter what.
I agree with what you're pointing out there, and I use that why question because I see, again, in my experience, I see sometimes people just make the decision based on, because that's just what we want to use, and have no real substance as to the why. And I always think it's a very important thing, like you say, keeping your eye on it, and obviously almost splitting up the functions or the feature sets that you've got across cloud platforms. It's certainly going to keep us busy until we retire. I think it's probably safe to say, Shabaz.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so much going on. It's it's exciting. I don't know if you find it the same as me, but it's exciting, and it causes a bit of anxiety at the same time because you think,
I was going to say, yeah,
there's so much to know. So
another new service. No.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see at the end of the day, and this probably leads us up right to the last part. I mean, we've been having a great chat now, Shabaz, but it's probably a nice segue into the last kind of piece of the conversation. I always like to try and ask guests as they come on a show, but obviously we've had a great chat about multi-cloud. We talked about your fantastic contributions to the community and what you've got going on with the Bradford Cloud User Group and obviously all the blogging and blogging. But what is making Shabaz excited for the future? So if we parked everything that you had today, everything that you know and do, is there anything for the future, for the next, that's going to keep you in a job for the next 5 to 10 years, let's say, or things that you're working on the side? What's that next big thing for you, Shabaz, in tech? Where are you placing your bets?
Well, I can't keep my job because these good looks for much longer because I'm getting a bit older. But,
I don't know,
no. So on a serious note, so what I've recently been looking at, and it might have been there for a while, but it's kind of come to my attention more. I've never been big on coding or programming. It's just not a skill that I've been able to master, unfortunately. But infrastructure as a code, for me, from a professional perspective, is where I need to really what I really need to master. And it's because I'm seeing more customers and that want that repeatable use. They don't want to have they don't want to have to keep on manually, even though it's fairly straightforward still. But having like a script where you change a couple of variables and bang, you can within minutes you can have your infrastructure, and it's that repeatable use of code. So I've started on a journey with Terraform.
Cool.
Started learning Terraform and trying to deploy infrastructure through that. So I've been successful again in the lab of deploying that. My aim is I want to learn how to deploy a full WVD. And again, it's come from my WVD stuff that I feel like I know WVD well enough to hold a conversation with anyone who, anyone from a technical perspective. But I want to be able to master being able to fully deploy the whole solution A to Z through infrastructure as a code. And that's, I think that's where, professionally for me, that's where I'm going to start looking and being able to kind of make deployments easier and repeatable for customers. And again, I could use the same script for different customers, just change variables, change subscription ID, stuff like that. That's kind of where my focus is going to be in the next, I'd say, six months.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, echo all those thoughts. I'm complete agreement with you. I think it's such a great technology to look at the moment, and I think I've dabbled with it, and I use it on a relatively frequent basis in work now, and I find it fun. It's sad to say, but it's almost like like you say, a technology pretty well, and you think, right, how do I write that? How do I write that in Terraform? And how do I save the state, and where can I do it? And I just find it's just another one of those things that you learn, and as soon as you get into it, it's like, right, I want to terraform the world now. It's like, right, what else can I do?
And we go back to that sort of technology, the vendor agnostic, something like Terraform work for both Azure and AWS. And again, Absolutely. It's just changing certain the content isn't different. It's just changing variables and to meet AWS, instead of it'll be an EC2 instance instead of a VM, or it'll be a zone instead of a region. So again, that whole agnostic piece, it fits in with where I'm trying to go from a professional perspective.
Yeah. So how are you? I mean, what's your sort of aim? How are you fitting that in amongst everything else that you're doing at the moment, Shabaz, in terms of your learnings? Are you kind of factoring that in as part of your learnings now? Can we expect to see some blog posts and things like that on Terraform as we go, or are you doing it on the side?
I think I'm doing it on the side. I think from a community perspective, I think what I like to do from my community is I like to do I like to blog about stuff I've done in production. Lab stuff is great, but I don't know, because again, it's in production, it's in real life that I feel like I gained from the experience. Like like I might have done a wrong piece of code, or I might have deployed something and it didn't quite work. Why didn't it work? I troubleshooted it. I found this error. Then do you know what I mean? That's so. As far as my blog and my community content, I like to have I like to use my real life experience. It's like I said, I'm labbing it at the moment, just in my own demo lab and playing with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, all success to you for that as well, because like I say, it is good fun. I think once you start doing it, I don't know, whether you've got the bug again, but I suppose that's just because we're techies, we find nerdy and geeky things fun at times. Hey ho. But Shabaz, this has been a brilliant conversation. I've loved having a chat with you tonight. I mean, are there any other parting comments, things that you want to bring up now before we bring this to an end?
Oh, John, just want to thank you, mate, for everything you do for the community. Thank you for all the content. Thank you for the user group stuff and these conversations that you have with different people in the community. It's great listening to people's experiences. I love listening to how people have, their journey. That's it for me. Understanding people's journey. The tech stuff, there's loads of it out there. All the vendors do the tech stuff, but and it's good. It's interesting hearing people's perspective of tech and their own experience of it. So stuff like this is amazing. So thank you, mate, for everything you do.
No, absolutely my pleasure, Shabaz. As you know, we've been in contact for such a while now. It'd be great to get to an in-person meetup and just sit down and have a bit of a natter about it all. But huge thanks for coming on tonight. Really have enjoyed this conversation, and likewise, the feeling's mutual, matey. Thanks for everything you do. I'll catch you on Twitter soon, and thanks for everybody that's watching. And we'll catch you next week. Thanks, Shabaz.
Thanks. Bye.